Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. If you listen to one video all the way through to the very end, I promise you this is the video to do it. You are going to see something that you have never seen in your life. I just finished it. I'm coming back and adding this in here right now. Go listen to the whole video. This is the bigger picture. What I'm going to teach in this video, I introduced in the last two videos, but I'm going to really center in on the core of it. I'm going to show you where it exists in every area of life. See, I'm on this mission to change your life. This is why I'm using different techniques, different stories, different metaphors, different examples, because I'm actually really good at it. Doing it through a video to someone I've never met, that might be a bit different, but this is one of those videos that will change your perspective on life and the way you have viewed things in the past, and how those other people, the narcissists, how they've been using this in the reverse to hurt you. Okay, so here's what it really comes down to. It's a very basic premises, and I've introduced it in the last few videos and probably spoke about it a long time ago, but I've got a better way to explain it because I saw some things online and now I'm like, this is how I can show you. And it comes down to this: positive or negative, the plus sign or the minus sign. Now hold on, it's not as quite visually prevalent as you may have think. I'm going to show you something. Our entire world system, everything, has been based on taking away from, 1 minus 1, because we as a society, as a world, as a group, view everything through the left brain. Or at least that's the way the systems and the powers that be perceive everything. It's like if I want something, I have to take it from you. So in order for me to gain, I must minus from you. Okay, so at one point in time, now this is something we learned in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's a form of cognitive and behavioral psychology. So at one point in time, you were one whole unit, or one whole complete being. Now, what is therapy all about? It's about getting you back to being that one whole complete unit, or one being. Now, here's what happens. At different points in time during your life, even if you believe in past lives, there were different events that caused you, and here's the big word, to fractionate. And what that would do is it would literally break off smaller parts of you and shove them outside of the core of you. So now you're beginning to be divided. So the volume, as always, is going to go down in the next section. So give it about another minute or so. And I mean the volume of the music, okay? So just stick with us. So what I'm talking about is a fractionated soul, or fractionating your soul, your energy, your core soul, spiritual energy of who you truly are. Now here's the thing, we all go through it. It's not like some people get to escape it, okay? Now here's how it happens. So I'm going to give you a true event from my life. So essentially what happens is something traumatic happens, something that shocks you, something that scares you, something that's brand new that you don't know how to deal with it, and you're like, whoa, and you freak out, okay? Now, when I was a child, going to kindergarten, the first day of kindergarten, right? So about a week or two, we had like something school night to introduce the kids to the teachers, so it wouldn't be such a shock, okay? So I remember going to that. They had games, and we met our kindergarten teachers and blah, 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 and the principal and some other of the teachers. And so about another 2 weeks go by, and they wake you up, okay, today's your first day of school, and you're like, oh, yay, this is going to be great. All my friends are going to be there. So you get in the car with your parents, and maybe if you have some siblings, and you go and you drive off and you walk out and you get out of your car, And you go, basically, at least at my school, everyone was kind of in front of the kindergarten class, and there was grass in the sidewalk, etc. And the teachers and parents were introducing, and there was quite a bunch of new kids, like at least 60% of the kids, like, well, who are those kids? I've never seen them before. But it's all good. This is going to be a good time, and the kids are smiling, the parents are smiling, everyone's happy and chatting, and the teachers are having a good time and everything. And all of a sudden the bell rings, and the kids are like, oh, great, it's time for class. And parents go, okay, go into class. And the teacher goes, come into class. And it's kind of a sneaky thing they do to you, because you're all excited and you're running in, and next thing you know, you're like, hey, where's my mom and dad? And you look out the window, you might be standing in the doorway, like, hey, where are you going? And you're like, no, you're going to class, we're going back home, or we're going to school. And you're like, what? So all of a sudden, all the kids start crying and grabbing their parents' legs or dresses. No, don't leave me. Because this is like the first time you're being left with a bunch of strangers. So what happened is, it's a traumatic experience. It's a new experience. So most people, most humans, most spirits can't handle that. So your emotional, spiritual energy is going, what? Like, you're scared. You're this little spirit. And so you take a drop of your energy and you shove it outside of the bubble. And now it's outside of the core. And it's like, what are you doing? And it tries to get back in. And you're like, no. When you close the door, like, you deal with it. So you're already in a panicked mode. You're flipping out. You're freaking out. And here's what happens. That part of you starts to take on its own persona over a period of time. It begins to develop its own rules, values, and it creates a strategy to deal with this kind of a situation. So the strategy that most of you made was panic and freak out inside and even scream and yell and cry. And that literally is the strategy that you use. Now, after about a week or two, the core you begins to realize, like, okay, no one's hurt us, no one's attacking us, they give us food, they give us snacks, they even give us nap time. Hey, this is kind of a pretty cool thing. And you get playtime and the playground, etc. And like, hey, okay. So the core you starts to go, okay, I'm in a safe environment, I know who the teacher is, I know that I can go to her when I need help, or, etc., etc. So now the core you goes, okay, I'm coming out, I'm going to be here now. And so that little part of you goes to the back. Now, here's the deal. It doesn't end there. So when you go to a new situation, it could be a new neighborhood, a new group of friends, a new cousin that you never met. Guess who gets to deal with that new situation? Yep, that tiny little part that got shoved out. And once again, so now let's say first grade, or let's say you go to your new cousins you've never met, right? And like, your new home, new city, like, who are these people? And like, and you meet your new aunts and cousins, and you're kind of like, who are these people? And so the core you get scared again and shoves that part out. So this part is fractionation. It's been fractionated from the core you. Now you're not one whole being. Now mind you, when the part was inside you, it wasn't like a separate part at all. It was like the ocean water. You just took a drop and shoved it outside, and then it started to become its own being. It literally develops its own strategy on how to deal with that very situation, called new situations. It develops rules, values, and beliefs just like a real person. Now, over a period of time, it starts to believe that it is you. It's not. It's a tiny fraction of who you are. So every time you go to a new class, a new school, a new grade, first grade, second grade, third, fourth, you freak out again, right? But as you get older, well, 8th or 9th grade, especially if you're a boy, you're like, well, I can't cry in front of the girls, I'm a tough boy now, and so your ego kind of blocks that. And so now you shove it down, meaning inside you're smiling, and you got kind of, if someone looked into your eye, like, that guy's freaking out inside. So instead of outwardly expressing this freak out, you are holding it inside and freaking out inside. And thus begins panic attacks, okay? So people are like, I can't get rid of it. Well, until you heal that part and or parts like this, you're going to have panic attacks and anxiety attacks. So this is fractionation, okay? And this is very unhealthy. It's terrifying. It causes anxiety, sleeplessness, and on and on and on. So this is how parts get developed. Now, when I was a kid going to kindergarten, I was in my dad's Blazer, brand new Blazer. My parents made pretty good money. We had 2 restaurants and 2 bars that were attached. So we made actually really good money. It was just like they took off. So we were in a nice Blazer. I'm with my brothers and sisters. It's a big old powerful thing. It's lifted off the ground, and my mom was there. My dad's driving, and I just felt completely safe, completely comfortable, and it was a really good time. I'm going to school, and that's all they talked about for months. Like, can you wait to go to school? The first day of school? Oh yeah, I can't wait. So everything was positive. It was comforting and positive. Now when we're pulling up, I'm looking at all the kids, and now the windows were up, and we had a really nice soothing song playing too. It was a really good positive song, and it made me feel good. So everything was inside this environment was good, and the windows were up, so I couldn't hear what was going on. And you could tell that everyone was smiling and happy, and everything was good. And all of a sudden something happened, and everyone freaks out and starts running inside, and then they start to cry and like, what's going on? My mom goes, well, the bell just rung. So we couldn't hear it because the windows were up and the stereo was on, okay? So I just like noticed a shift, and all of a sudden everyone started, some of the kids got excited, moving towards the classroom. The parents started to walk away. I'm like, and all of a sudden I noticed this one tough kid, I can't remember, I think it was Jimmy was his name, but and he's crying. I'm like, and I'm thinking like, oh, Jimmy's not tough like he always acts. That's just, and I realized it, and for some reason that comforted me even more, because Jimmy was kind of a bully. So to me, the first day of school was this very positive experience. I didn't get that negative experience that most people have. So when I go into new experiences, it's a really good time. Like, okay, this is really cool. Now, in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we learn something called parts integration. And after I teach you this, I'm going to show you what's been going on in the world and techniques that narcissists have been using to fractionate us, to hurt us, and to terrorize us. So parts integration, when you have a broken off part, it's kind of like alone, it's on its own. So what happens is you don't get just like one fractionated part, you'll get a lot of parts, and where it could be dozens to hundreds over a period of time. And all of them generally occur when you're really, really young, like at birth, maybe in the womb, maybe the first moment the doctor smacks your ass when you're born. You know, like when you're born, that is a traumatic, terrifying experience. So you start making parts at a very, very young age. Now here's the problem. So now you're 21, 25, 30, 35, 40 years old, and you're going into the world to a new job or whatever. Well, this part that was only 4.5 years old gets shoved back out there. So who do you think is better to deal with an adult situation? Someone who's 35, 40, 45 years old, who has a lifetime of experience of watching movies on how people deal with new situations and learning things and having a lifetime of actual real life experience. See, your core absorbs all these lessons. You watch how your parent dealt with it. You watch how your teacher, your best friend's dad, who's a real smart guy. Maybe you dealt with a situation like, okay, that didn't work. Well, that's a learning. So as an adult, the adult has thousands of real life experiences and knows much better how to handle these situations. But what do? We shove that little part of us out there who has no life experiences and is only 4 years old. So this is why some people will move ahead in life and make money and prosper and handle situations better. And then there's people like, no matter how hard they work, you could work 14 hours a day, get your master's and doctorate degree and get a double master's, and you just can't function. You can't, for some reason, you don't get the job, or you don't get moved up to management, or you don't get the, whatever. It's because you're operating from these little parts. So whenever you have a part, you have a complete and total opposite part. So there's a technique we call parts integration that brings these parts together and everything in between. It's not 2 parts now. Now it's all the different fractionations in between these 2 incomplete opposite parts. And once you heal the 2 outside parts, it heals everything within. And now, once that part is whole, healed, and complete, it comes back inside the core you, and now that drop of water comes back into the ocean, and now it's one. It's not two. It's not a separate part inside. Once it comes inside, it becomes the whole complete part, or the whole complete core you. And now you have a little bit greater clarity. Now you're not as divided. You don't have a part of me wants to go left, but a part of me wants to go right. No, all of a sudden you have more, you become more and more in alignment. So now let's talk about what the world has done, what narcissists have done. It's going to shock you because it's not just you. So the number one tool, literally the number one tool that a narcissist uses in many different ways, using many different tools to have this one effect, is divide. Now obviously wholeness is preferred because that is health. When you are separated and divided, that is the opposite of health, like the the antichrist or the anti-anything. It means you're negating. It's very negative and it causes stress and many problems. So integrating, becoming more and more whole and complete, bringing all your energy parts back inside to fill you up and becoming more and complete is the goal. Now for the narcissist, their goal is to divide and separate, and thus they conquer and they can control, and it causes chaos. Division, separation causes fighting. It causes chaos. I'm better than you. Either or, either this, either that. That is a division, divided mentality. That either or thinking causes division, not only outside, but within. And that's the whole thing. Their real goal is to divide you within, inside you. Now I'm going to give you a couple techniques that they use and then show you a real life example. Number one is the Hegelian dialectic. If you have not heard of that, it is a technique that narcissists use. It's the opposite of parts integration. It's like parts separation. And here's how they do it. So it's an argumentative technique to pull apart and destroy anything that's beautiful, powerful, healthy, prosperous, loving, or good. And it works by literally separating it into different multiple parts, and thus weakens it. So here's how it works. Let's say you say, I believe in God, or I believe in my country, or anything. And they're like, oh, you do, huh? So what they'll do is their brain, okay, so in parts integration, we're like, okay, we'll ask the person when a part pops up, okay, what's the complete, total, and opposite to this? So let's say you have a problem, a part that's like, I feel alone, okay, and scared and terrified. And I say, okay, what's the complete and total, 100% opposite, total opposite? It's like way over there. It's like, well, that would be someone that's solid, grounded, whole, and complete. Like, okay, well, then you say, well, what is that like? Well, it's this, it feels solid, it's the color of it, that symbol, and you'll usually get a symbol of what it means. It's like a knight in shining armor, in white cloak, white armor, clean, shining with a solid sword, and he has clarity in his mind, or it could be whatever for you. It could be a Buddhist monk. And so what you do is you integrate these parts, and now, because here's what happens. The one part on the left, let's say, had a part that benefited the far part on the right, and the right part will have something that benefits the other one on the left. For example, so let's say, well, I'm a lighthouse out in the ocean to keep the boats from going up against the rocks. Well, what's the problem? Like, well, I don't have a light. And what's the complete total opposite? Well, the complete total opposite could be the light of the universe. And it's pure, it's clarity, it can see, it's aware, and whereas the lighthouse is dark and doesn't have awareness, and you can't see very far, and blah blah blah, and it causes crashes, and boats are smashing up against the rocks. So then you're like, once you start doing like the higher purpose, they both realize they had the higher purpose in the first place, but they got separated. So then you're like, well, what? You do a technique where they come together and you hold your hands, you're holding it in there, and then when you open up, the symbol changes, and like, well, what's it look like now? And usually this will be an example. It's like, oh, well, now it's still a lighthouse, but it's bigger, it's powerful, and that big bright universal light is inside the lighthouse, and now it's created absolute clarity all the way around. Now here's what Hegelian dialectic does. It does the opposite of that. It doesn't bring two into one to be complete. So again, that's atonement, at one. To atone is 2 words, at one. That's what atonement means, is to bring it together in whole and complete. Now Hegelian dialectic does the opposite of that, separates. So what they will do is they will use that technique, but in reverse. They're like, okay, so you believe this, so and they're like, okay, what's the complete total opposite of that? And and they'll come up with some. So if I run on a piece of paper, I've got a circle or a dot on the left, and then they go to the complete opposite, the far, far left or far, far right. And like, what's the opposite? So now what they'll do is they meet you in the middle. So now you put 2 lines up at the top to a point, and they're like, well, that's the middle. And they're trying to get you slowly to go over to that, okay? Kind of like the meeting of the minds, like, well, you know, I want $1,000 for this bike. And they're like, yeah, but I only want to give you 100. And like, oh, well, I want 900. Well, I'll give you 200. And you basically negotiate to the center, and now it's been divided. So now it's like a pyramid or like a triangle where the tip is up at the top and it's in the center between the left and the right. So then what they do, now they start from that point, and then they will argue and disagree that point. Yeah, but well, don't you believe this over here is true? Because what you're saying is blah, blah, blah. And if you're not really paying attention, like you never said that in the first place, you actually said the first point, which was further to the left or to the right. And then you start to defend that point. And this is what they do. And then you come to another pyramid or triangle. Now you come halfway over from that. And then they do it again and again and again. And now you have multiple fractures. Now you become fractionated mentally and psychologically. And the more you argue with them and take on that middle point, okay, well, I'll meet them in the middle. No, don't meet people in the middle. Don't do that. Is because they'll weaken you. Now you weaken 50%. You do it again. Now you weaken 75%. You do it again. Now you weaken 100%. Now you weaken 150%. Now 200%. So now your whole argument is completely weakened, void, and gone. And if people in the area and they're listening to this, like, well, yeah, you don't really have an argument now. It's because they destroyed your argument by playing this bullshit game. And by the way, if you have dealt and interacted with a narcissist, they have taken you through this. That's why when you try to talk to them and negotiate, oh, they want you to negotiate. They love to do this negative negotiation tactic. Is you've been through this. This is why when you've had conversations with these people, it drained you. Now, guess where else they do this? They do this in the banking system. The bank, the system is literally called the fractional reserve banking. They literally fractionate your money. Now I'm going to leave a link to this short video. It's only about a minute and a half long max. But it gives you the basics. Now I studied this back in the 90s when I was going through an NLP training. Someone said, hey, they gave me this 2-hour tape, said you've got to listen to this. And it really shocked the hell out of me, because what they do is you go to the bank and you deposit $10,000, okay? So what they do is they only keep 10% of that money in the bank. In fact, if a bank says it's worth, let's just make up a number, $100 million, they only actually have 10% of that in cash. They don't have all of it. What they do is they take 90% of it and then they put it on circulation by loaning it to people who want loans for cars and homes and businesses. So you come along, or the next person comes along, and they ask for a car loan for $9,000. Well, that $10,000, they only kept 10% in the bank that you deposited, and now they're giving this person that $9,000 as a loan. Now, mind you, this isn't their money. They lose nothing. So you buy the car, and then the borrower, the bank, pays the money to the person who sold the car to you. They're literally just shifting money from one hand to another. They're risking nothing. So then this person takes that money, the person who got paid for selling the car to you or to whoever, and they go to the bank, and then they deposit this money into the bank, and then the bank does it all over again. And then that money gets redeposited into the bank, and it just keeps continuing. So now the bank literally makes $100,000 off of $10,000 that was never their money. Now you've got a bunch of people out there with loans on cars, homes, and businesses that are now paying this money back to the bank, which they never lost in the first place. And on top of it, they're charging you interest on top of nothing. So now you're fractionated financially. Now you're in debt. okay? And man, this goes a lot deeper than this, but I think you're getting the idea. Now let's talk about taxes. I'm really going to just say this. When you get paid, you have to pay taxes on that money, okay? When you go buy a house, you got to pay taxes on that. Then they decided years ago to make up a new tax called the royalty. I forget the name of it, damn it. But every year you got to pay taxes on your house. So off of that one paycheck, you immediately pay taxes, and then you buy something, you immediately pay taxes, and then on that you got to pay yearly taxes, housing taxes, and then like say for your car, then like in California you've got to register your car every year. That's a form of tax. And then in California you got to smog it every 2 years and then register that year too. That's another form of tax. So, and then when you go to sell the car, guess what? You have to pay taxes on that, and then the person buying it has to pay taxes on it too. Do you see how this system is working right now? So that $1 bill that you make gets taxed for the rest of its life. It doesn't get taxed once when you get paid. It gets taxed when you buy something, when you sell something. If you own it, you got to pay taxes every year or every other year. And then when you sell that to someone, they got to pay taxes. You got to pay taxes on the money that they gave you for it. Like that, the taxing of that dollar bill never, ever, ever stops. So literally $1 will make them a billion or billions of dollars if it's in circulation long enough. And here's the thing. They took zero risk. It wasn't their money. They didn't work for the money. They didn't invest. They didn't do shit. We are being scammoled. And not only that, but what this does is it fractionates you internally, emotionally. It puts you in debt. It fractionates society. It fractionates people. This is just another form of literally fractionation, fractional reserve banking. Now, look at Hegelian dialectic. What does it do? It minuses. It takes away from you. And it leaves you feeling drained and empty. And here's what it does. It literally devalues what you believe, what your values are, what your rules, etc., your strategies are. That's the whole goal of Hegelian dialectic, is to devalue whatever you think, whatever you believe, whatever you do. So it doesn't add value, it takes away value. Same thing with a fractional reserve banking system. The whole system does one thing. It takes away from you. It puts you into debt. You work so hard for all this money, and then they take it away from you, and they take no risks at all. They don't even invest anything. When they invest, that's purely for them. That's additional on top. This is literally another form of slavery. Put simply, the banking system is designed to put you and society into debt. Now we are in debt to them. It does not add value. It takes away value. Now remember parts integration. You bring them together, 1 + 1, now you have a whole complete. You don't have two separate. Now you have one larger whole complete, okay? So it's about adding, connecting like pieces of the puzzle. Now I'm going to add one more, okay? It's something that we've spoken about and you've heard about if you've dealt with narcissist abuse. It's called word salad. I made a video called Advanced Word Salad, which breaks down the technique that they're doing to you. So again, it's another form of fractionation, okay? So word salad, it's a technique that they reversed from a therapeutic technique that we learned in NLP. Now in this technique, you start a story and you don't finish it, and then you go down, you start another story, you don't finish that, and then you do a third one, you don't finish that. And then right there in between, in the middle, you will install confidence, comfort, intelligence, feeling good about yourself. And then what you do is you complete the third story, and then you complete the second story, and then you complete the first story, and now it's one whole complete system. Well, in an advanced word salad, what narcissists do is they will start a story and they won't finish it. They'll start another one, they won't finish it. They'll start another one, they won't finish it. And they'll do this, and this is called open loops. So they never close and complete the loops. It's like listening to a song halfway and never finishing it, or watching a movie halfway and never finishing it. So your brain spins and spins and spins. I'm like, well, what's going on here? Another thing they do is they will ask you questions and let you start to finish your answer, but then they interrupt, and then they interrupt with another question, and then you start to answer, and then they interrupt. You start to add another one, they interrupt, and this is what they do, is by keeping all these open loops, and it really screws with your mind. It confuses you, it drains you, and it exhausts you. So here's the purpose of me sharing all this with you. I'm showing you a greater pattern that's been happening to you, within you, and within the entire world. Now there's a very simple technique. I call it and, both, plus, and more. So whenever someone says or if you say, well, this or that, you can replace the word or with and you can do that anywhere and everywhere. Now it seems awkward at first, but after a while it starts to feel a lot better. You have more energy, you don't feel drained. And here's what you do. You literally add to the conversation. 1 plus 1 equals 2 versus 1 minus 1 takeaway equals 0. And that's how you feel when you talk to someone who's like this. You feel drained, like you have an empty gas tank. So whenever someone uses the word but, that is a takeaway, that is a minus sign. So if you say I love you but, you literally just minused what you said before that. So the word but minuses what is said before it. And what they really mean is what they said afterward. But I want you to do the dishes, but will you clean the bathroom? They literally said I don't love you, clean the bathroom. You could say, I love you, and will you do the dishes for me? I'd really appreciate that. When you use the word and, you add to other people's conversation. When you use and, the word both, the word plus, these are addition words. There's a whole list of them. So this is the way the world can be, and I believe this is the shift that is beginning to happen. Now listen to what I said. This is that. That's 1 plus 1 equals more. Now, I teach these languaging, I call it forwarding positive languaging patterns, in the communication courses, the life course coaching, and also especially the men's courses, Crack the Female Code. I can also add this to the Why Men Just Don't Get It course for women, okay? So I teach you how to use this. Why? Because it energizes you. It energizes the people that you're talking with. And it allows you to see it when someone's doing the no. See, it's real simple. When people, they love to use the word but, because that word minuses, it drains you, it takes away. So when you have someone who's but, you, no matter what you say, it's almost like they're laughing at you, but, because they know that all they have to do is say the word but, and they just minus every positive thing that you just said. Now here's what I'm expressing overall. We can recreate our banking system into a positive addition banking system. Now here's what it will do. It will create prosperity for everybody. Because it will add versus taking away. It will create prosperity versus creating debt. See, the whole either or mentality, because a lot of people believe, well, it's my turn to be rich, so I got to take it from you. No, that you're just creating more debt. You're just creating more financial debt, emotional debt, energy debt. That will never fix the problem, ever. Not only that, but you're just going to be pissing off a whole bunch of people. Now you're going through life stress. You might have that $1 million, $2 million home, but now you got all this whole groups of people looking at you like F you, because you're still recreating the debt system. You're recreating this no, not, can't, won't, but. You're minusing everyone. You're taking away, and nobody likes it when you take away from them, especially in conversations. When you add to the conversation, that's when people like it. And you're like, well, how do I do that? Well, it's really simple. Use these words, and both, plus, and more. So add, well, plus, and both, plus, more, of course, absolutely. Now, those are all addition words. Those are all 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 plus 3 equals 4. Now you're adding to the conversation, and it makes people feel good. It also adds more energy for you and the people interacted. It doesn't take away from anyone. It begins to multiply the energy. Alright, I'm 55 years old. I have lived through hell. I've played some of the toughest sports on the planet. I've been airborne infantry. I've gone through the toughest trainings on the planet. Boxing, kickboxing, wrestling. My whole life I did combat sports. When you meet me, you're like a lot of my friends, they're like, dude, like you don't even, like, they look like they're 15 years older than me, at least. They're exhausted, they're tired, they're drained. And they look at me like, wait, what's going on here? I've done a lot of healing work, and what this does, it brings your energy back inside, adding to your energy versus, see, when you have all these little parts out there, you're getting drained. So here's the overall message. You can either go through life in a minus sign or an addition sign. You can either add to yourself and the world, or you can take away from yourself and the world. Because the people that are in that other system, even the people that have the money, if you look at them, they're stressed out of their mind. They're drained. And this is what my book and my course, Crack the Female Code, is all about. The reason why couples start fighting and arguing is because they're draining each other. They're in arguments, no, not, can't, won't, shan't, and they're doing all this stuff, but they're not conscious of it. They don't realize they're doing it, and you end up aging faster. You end up getting exhausted. Your children are exhausted. Life is exhausted. When you flip it around, it begins to add to the system, and now it creates more energy, so now you have extra energy that feeds the children, and that's the way a healthy relationship is supposed to be. And that's what this symbol is about. This is what I believe cold fusion is truly about. It just builds and builds and multiplies and multiplies. There's no takeaway. There's no negative. Now this is a chart, one piece of page from my manual for Crack the Female Code. It's a system when a man connects with a woman mentally first, then emotionally, then physically, because that's the way her system's designed. Then she connects with him physically, and then he opens up emotionally, and now we have a complete circuit that actually builds up energy. See, ladies, men don't know that you need to connect first mentally through a certain form of communication and then open up emotionally through the right brain language and then connect physically. They don't know it because guess what? They start number one physically. The problem is if they connect with you sexually, physically to physical, from their 1 to your 3, it's like putting a metal bar across the battery in a car, and all it's just going to do is going to drain it, and it's going to make it the energy get frustrated and build, and it's going to blow up. And that's the equivalent to men and women blowing up and having arguments and fight and smashing stuff in relationships because it wasn't done to complete the circuit. Everything I just shared with you is all about Adam and Eve in the garden and the serpent in the book of Genesis. This is where we went wrong. We went to our left brain, the knowledge brain, the tree of knowledge, which is the negative brain. It's the minus sign brain. The right brain is the addition brain, the plus brain, and this is called the tree of life. And this is what God was trying to share with us. So my course and all the other courses I teach, in one way or another, not only teach this to you, but it conditions it into your system where you begin to function on this level. And now people are attracted to you, whether it's business partners, people that want to buy from you, customers, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your children, because you're adding to their life. You're adding energy to their soul. Alright, God bless you guys. I hope you liked this video. If you like this video, please go ahead and click subscribe, click the like button, make a comment, and if you like, go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.